Hi everyone, welcome back. So this is the second video of doing the faux leather look journal covers or pages or pockets or whatever that you choose to do with it. So you can see in front of me I have a piece that I've already worked on with this technique, and all I'm using is a brown paper bag. So it's just one of these bags from my local grocery store. We tend to have them with these little handles, but I just cut them out, so that's not a problem. And yeah, so it's just one of these ones with the, you know, the bottoms in it and the gusseted sides. So I will go through and show you how I make this leather sort of look with it, and then I'll also show you the next step if you want to change it into more of a suede feel. So let's get on and do that. So I'll just show you what supplies I'm going to use for today. So really simple. I'm going to use, I've got my glass media mat, which is great for one part of the process. I don't like to use my cutting mats because they get too dirty when I'm in there working with inks and that sort of thing. But I'm just going to put down one of my smaller cutting mats for the first part of the process. And then, as I said, I'm going to use a brown paper bag, but you can also just use any sort of brown packaging sort of stuff, or you know, you get it on a roll or however you get it. I'm going to use a craft knife. This one's quite small, but it's enough for this job, and it's a really nice sharp one. A ruler. Now this ruler has a metal edge on here specifically for cutting. If you don't have one of these, just any steel metal ruler will do. I'm going to use some inks, and I will be using I've got the VersaFine Claire in the Nocturne and the Fallen Leaves. I probably won't use the Nocturne today. And I've also got a Tim Holtz Distress Oxide in the Vintage Photo. So I'll be using both of those. You can use whatever colours you want to use. You can use these and then add to it with some colours. So some, you know, blues and greens and pinks and purples or whatever you want to do. I'm just going to stick with the basic ones today. The other thing I'm going to use is some water in a spray bottle, some Mod Podge, and my collage brush, and one of the other ingredients that we're going to use for today is some hair conditioner. So any hair conditioner that you have in your bathroom is going to be fine and it will work. I think that's everything for the moment. If there's anything else, I'll let you know as we go along. Excuse me. So all I do, let's see if I can zoom out as much as I can. I'm going to have to turn this on its side because for some reason today my camera is not zooming all the way out. So let's move a few things there. Now all I do is you just want to take off this edge of this bag here on both sides. Only a really, really small bit. So I tend to, let's do it from this side. I tend to line it up so that I start straight. Now these bags are not straight for a start. So I can see here that this side of the bag starts here and the other one is near that line. So I'm just going to, so that it opens completely, line it up there so that I'm going to take that whole piece off. Now you can obviously straighten your pieces up later on as well once they're off. But we'll just do this. Come down here and oops, okay, missed a little bit there. All right, so taking that side off, turn it around it's lined up better on this side, that's for sure. So we'll just take this edge off here. You may have to go through it a couple of times because there are a few layers. Whoops. Just don't slip and cut yourself. As I said, this craft knife is extremely sharp. But it's very good. Okay, so we'll get rid of those bits. Now, this bag should then open up completely, and it won't obviously all be in shot, but it's like that. So when you trim the sides off, these middle gusset bits are already completely removed just by taking the sides off. Now this one was ripped already inside, but normally they're you know, if they've only been used once or not used at all, they're normally not ripped like that, but you could just stick that back together. So I don't throw these away, I put these in my scraps bin, and they're fantastic for other projects. So you could even just fold these straight in half and make a square sort of shaped journal, and that's or notebook. It's actually quite a good size, or you could trim it down. You could use it for all sorts of things, so I don't throw them away. And then what you want to do is with this, these ones unfortunately have handles, so I need to get rid of the handle, and I could just get my scissors and snip that straight off there, but it's got an extra layer here which is going to annoy me. So I know from like in the past, I've been able to actually remove this layer quite easily without sort of hurting the integrity of the layer underneath too much. So I'm going to do that and see if I can get away with it. And then it just takes a little bit of peeling these bits off. Not too worried if there's little bits like left there, because again it just adds to the differences in the paper as we go along. But that's pretty good. If you're worried about it, you can just, you know, cut off that section there, and you've still got a good size here to use with something. So I might keep that in my paper. Actually no, I'm going to cut it away. So let's just turn this. For some reason, as I said, my camera, I don't think I have it up high enough today, so it's hasn't got everything in shot. So we'll just take that away, and that's gotten rid of that. And then I just cut, same thing down the bottom, just cut the base of the bag off. Trying to do it as straight as possible, but again, you can straighten everything up later on. So then I'm left with this big part here, and I can use this side. And then I also use the bases as well for journal covers, because they're kind of doubled. So I'll show you that maybe another time, but I just sort of glue these bits down here, and it actually makes quite a good strong sort of journal cover. So I pop all that into my scraps bin, and then for now I can get rid of my cutting mat. And so you have a couple of choices at this point. So you can decide that you're going to wet this down now, or you can do it further along in the process. So I tend to crumple my paper up first. So just like we did with the baking paper, you want to give it a really good scrunch. And because this is thicker than baking paper, it can take a few goes to sort of really get the desired effect. So So, you know, you just want to get the corners, give them a really good crumple. And I said, just keep going until it looks how you want it to look. And obviously, if this is wet, it'll probably crumple up a lot easier. And you can crumple it later after we do these next sort of few steps. So you can crumple it again when it's wet. So that's got a pretty good amount. So I just sort of smooth it out a bit. I don't want to flatten it as such, but I want to be able to see the surface to do the next sort of step. So if you're not happy with it at this point, just crumple it again. Just keep going. But that's pretty good, I think. Okay, so we'll just smooth that back out a little bit. Okay, so from here what you want to do is you want to grab your inks. Now I'm going to start with Vintage Photo, and I'm going to just use the ink pad itself. So if you want to, you can grab your little dabbers that you do it, but I think that this, using it this way, gives you a better sort of look. And all you want to do is just go over, and it just hits on all those mountains, I guess, as we call them, in the paper, and it just starts to highlight all of those. And I start lightly. I can always darken it up as I go. So I just keep going until I'm really happy with it. Move the paper around a bit. And then sometimes I'll start being a bit more heavy-handed with it as well, and getting a bit darker sort of spots here and there as I go. Okay, so there's that. Now if you choose to, you can then grab a darker shade such as Fallen Leaves, and actually I'll show you that a bit closer so you can sort of see. And I might zoom in a little bit, give you a bit closer look, a bit better look there. And then if you want, you can start hitting it with some Fallen Leaves, which I think looks fantastic, in different sort of spots, and then that adds even more sort of depth to it. Now at this point you can choose to also grab your other colours if you're going to use other colours, and you can go in and, you know, hit certain spots and add a bit of colour, so whether it be pinks, purples, whatever, reds, blues, whatever you think is going to look good. Now I want to keep mine as looking as authentic as I can of leather, so today I'm not putting any extra colours in there. You can, I guess, also don't use any of these and have an effect just with colours. It won't necessarily look like leather, but you know, you can play around with paper as much as you want like this. So then at this point you can either start to put a journal together and use it and start wrapping it around. Obviously this is the inside, and you could get your cardboard or whatever you're using for the rest of the base for your journal cover, and you could glue this down. And then you would Mod Podge over the top of it. Or if, like me, we're going to do a few other steps, you could Mod Podge it right now, and then you'll have that leather sort of look. and you could save it for later for when you're ready to make your journal cover, and then it's sort of ready to go. We're going to do a couple of more steps. So but what I might do actually is I might Mod Podge this now so that you get to see the look of the leather sort of look, and then I'll grab another piece and quickly do this process again and then move into the suede look. So all I do is same as you would always do with your Mod Podge. And I'm really happy with how that looks right now. So I don't want to add anything more to it. And then you're just hitting it with your Mod Podge. Now, you're going to get some movement in the ink because you're wetting it. So try, if you're like me, I'm a bit rough. So you will get that variation, but when it dries, as we know, Mod Podge dries clear, so it's going to look great when it's all dry. So I'm not too worried in the middle of the process there. And so you can see some of the ink does move, but that's fine. And it actually gives a really good colour and a more of a leather authentic sort of look when you've, you know, got some colour variations. Now, you do have to sort of play around with your Mod Podge a little bit so that it doesn't pool, because you've got all your papers got lots of creases in it. So it might have a tendency to sort of sit, as you can see here. If I zoom in a little bit there, so you can sort of see little pools of it. So just get your brush and just go along and, you know, pick up those extra little bits of Mod Podge there, and it will darken up as it dries as well. So we're sort of looking here, and this looks really quite dark, and that looks lighter now that it's been hit with that. But it's all part of that, you know, getting that more authentic sort of leather look as well. So just add some more Mod Podge. So if you're really worried about the ink moving, just be a bit more gentle than what I'm being. But I'm not really having any trouble there. It looks pretty good. I should probably change my name to the Messy Crafter, because I'm very messy. And I start off being neat, and I start off going quite gentle, and then I'm a bit gung-ho, but that's okay, because we all just craft our own way. So again, just picking up any of that excess Mod Podge that's pooling anywhere. And like I said, you're going to get a bit of that because you've got all these peaks and valleys and stuff in your paper, so it's just going to, it's going to do that. It's not a smooth surface. And this will just, it will seal in those inks as well. I mean, when you're doing it, you can get a bit of ink on your fingers, like I get it on my hands, which is quite normal, but this will seal it all in. So just a last little go over, picking up any of that excess, which you've sort of got to do fairly quickly, otherwise you can get some little stringy bits. Okay, so then obviously you just let that dry, or grab your hairdryer or your heat tool and give that a dry off, and zoom back out for a moment. So you can see that there has got that really shiny, leathery sort of look to it now that we've hit it with the Mod Podge, and you can see it's picked up all of those you know, different variants in the ink, which is really quite lovely. So that's just the leather look part of it. Once it's dry, it will be fantastic. So now what we're going to do is do the suede effect. So I need another piece of my paper bag. So I'm just going to move that one out of the road, move my cutting mat back in for a moment, and I'm just going to cut off this bit here. Throw that away, and then we just want to take this bit off again. Really wish they wouldn't make these bags with handles sometimes, so that they were easier for us crafters to use, but they're easy enough to remove all the extras. Okay. Let's just get rid of all of that. So you can see it only takes a couple of seconds to do all of that. And this variation bit, actually, this side bit's got a bit on it as well. So we'll take that off. And that just peeled off quite well, so I'm not too worried about it. If I was, then you can trim. Actually, we will trim. We'll take that bit off, and I think we will leave this bit here and not trim it. I think it's going to be fine as long as it's all cut down. If I fold that over, that's actually going to be a good size. So I'm going to leave that there, and I think a lot of what we're doing to it is going to hide these variations anyway. So it'll just add some more character, I think. So let's give it a go like that. Okay, so once again, we're going to crumple this up. Open it back up, and crumple it up some more. I probably should have tried it with wetting it down in this example first, but we will wet it later with the water bottle. So, okay. Alright, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Alright, so once again, just doing the exact same process, hitting it with the ink pad. This is a part where I get ink on my hands because I'm holding down the paper in places where I've already inked. But art is a messy business. So you can, you know, sort of go more in and rub like that, but I find you get a much nicer look if you just rub it straight across rather than rubbing it backwards and forwards. But you can try out all different sorts of techniques. So that's the vintage photo on there now. Let's put that more in shot. I'm going to go through and I'm going to hit it with a bit of the fallen leaves like I did before. Just adds another dimension to it there. I love it. I think it looks fantastic. Okay, so it's super quick and easy to do this. Okay, so now we want to turn this into suede. So this is not one where we use Mod Podge on it. If you use Mod Podge, you're going to turn it into that leather look of what we just did. So all you want to do from here is you want to wet the paper down. Now when you spray the paper, you are going to get some movement of this ink. I think that it just adds to the character of it. You won't get a lot of movement, but you will get some. Obviously, if you spray it really close and you saturate it, you're going to get more movement of that ink. So I tend to try and, you know, hold my bottle away and let the water just sort of fall. And you can see that you do have some sort of movement of some of that ink, but it's just going to add a nice variation to this paper bag and to your cover. So then from there, what you want to do is you want to get your conditioner in your hands, spray it with a little bit of water, wet it down a little bit, mush it around, and then you just want to smooth it over your paper. So I do this fairly gently so that I don't smudge too much of that ink, and it's not really moving there, so that's good. And you just sort of want to coat it over the entire bag. And you can see I'm not really getting like the conditioner. I mean, the ink that you can see was already there on my hands. So the conditioner is not really changing colour on my hands there. So you're not getting a heap of ink that's coming off. So you just want to give that a nice little coating there. Okay, wipe off my hands a little bit. And then at this point, you just want to leave it to dry, or you can hit it with your heat tool or your hair dryer, whatever you choose to use. But then you can also, before that, if you want, this is really quite soft and malleable, so you can grab it again and scrunch it up once more if you choose to. Okay, and then just gently, it's really nice and soft now, and you can spread it back out, and then you've got even more lovely wrinkles and variations there in your paper. So then obviously you just want to dry it out. Now I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see that a little bit closer sort of look at that, and it's really quite lovely. So that's all you need to do, is let it dry, and then you've got a perfect piece to make a journal cover with. And it's really soft. It feels really nice. It's got that suede-y sort of look to it, and it will keep that feel even when it dries. I would think that drying it, letting it air dry, probably will have a slightly softer touch than if you hit it with the hairdryer or your heat tool. I'm not quite sure, to be honest. I haven't looked, but it'll still be soft no matter which way you do it. But yeah, it's just got this really nice buttery sort of feel to it, and you can see the differences in those two. But hold them close to the camera. This one's really quite shiny, and this one's not. It's more of a matte. And then I also did a piece earlier, and this has air dried with the conditioner, so it's the suede sort of look, and I just left it to air dry, and it's probably only been drying for about 10 minutes, but it's got a really nice suede sort of feel to it. If it's not as soft as what you were hoping for it to be, then just hit it with some more conditioner, and it'll sort of soften up. I didn't scrunch this one a second time after I put the conditioner on either, so this one's probably not quite as soft and wrinkly as that one, but it still looks fantastic. So yeah, you can just add some more conditioner to it and let it dry again. So I will probably come back at some stage and add this, start making it into a journal cover to show you the final look and the extra inking and that I do to it to sort of age them all up. So I'll pause the camera, get these all dry, and then come back and have a bit of a play with that. So back in a moment. Okay, so now we're back and we've got all of our pieces are dry. So this is the leather look one that we Mod Podged, and then we have another piece that we've done with the suede feel with the conditioner that hasn't been Mod Podged. So I thought what I would do is put them together as little journal covers, just to sort of give you an idea, and then we can finish off distressing the edges and that a lot more. So what I'm going to do today is use just a bit of manila folder, actually, because I don't want a really thick heavy duty cover, and this has to be able to fit around it. So this is a little bit long, so we just want to take off a bit of that. I'm just going to turn my mat this way. Oh. Again with my dog. So the neighbourhood dogs have been set off by something. So of course she has to join in. Right, so we're just going to take that off, and then actually we'll take off this end because it's got a rounded corner down there and we don't want the rounded corner. So let's just take off a little bit there to begin with. Did I cut through? Yes, I did. Okay, so let's have a look. It's probably big enough there. It needs to be a bit shorter. So let's take it down. Let's say, let's take it off here. And see how we go. Okay, so that's probably enough. So it'll make a good sort of size. So all I'm going to do, I'm not going to use, I think I'll just use glue stick for this on the middle bit, and then I'll probably just use some clear craft glue. So I'm just going to use some Elmer's washable clear glue. I use a lot of art glitter glue, but sometimes I find that it can, depending on the project, it can leave little lines if you haven't really smoothed the glue out. So yeah, I'm going to steer away from that for today. You could use Fabri-Tac. We don't have Fabri-Tac here, and on Amazon a standard bottle of Fabri-Tac will cost me about $70 without delivery on Amazon, which is just insane. So as much as I would like to use Fabri-Tac, and I see people using it all the time on YouTube, it's just way too expensive for me. So I use other sorts of fabric glues that we have here. Okay, so I'm just gonna lay this down, sort of get it central, smooth that down. So that will stick pretty well. which is what we want. Now I can take away my cutting mat. And I like to use my brayer because I find a lot of the time when you're using things, they like to sort of curl up, or, you know, just to get a really good contact between the glue and whatever I'm using. So I'm trying not to press too hard because, you know, I obviously don't want to flatten out my ridges and that too much on the other side. And then I like to trim. I know some people will just go full on in there and they don't care how messy it is, but I do like to trim mine down a little bit. So I'm not going to take off too much, but I'll just take off just that little bit because I don't like the bulk that some of them get as well. So obviously the more paper there, the more layers, the more bulk that you get. I'm going to be covering the inside of the journal cover anyway, so you won't see any of this. But again, like I said, it's just more bulk. Okay, right. Okay, so then I like to miter the corners, and I will sort of leave about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch or so there. You can always cut down more later if you need to, if you haven't cut it off enough. Just to make sure those corners aren't exposed. If you make a mistake and you cut off too much, you can always put book corners on, so your metal book corners on there to fix any of those sorts of mistakes. So like with anything, you know, if you make a mistake, just keep going because there's a fix somewhere for that. So I'm just going to use this and use a fairly sort of generous amount there. And just fold that over. As I said, I don't want a really heavy journal cover in this instance, so using a bit of manila folder is fine. You know, you could use some of the paper bag. This is the bottom of the bag that I was talking about before, and because it's kind of got a couple of layers there, it actually makes a really good sturdy journal cover. So you could have used this instead of this bit of manila folder. You could use a cereal box, anything that you like. So let's just add some glue and keep going here. And they really do look lovely, this faux leather and suede. And it's such a quick and easy little project to do. Obviously it's takes longer when you're filming a video and you're showing people, but it's really a lot quicker than what you would think. Now I'm probably going a bit over the top with my glue. So I'm going to have some that squeezes out everywhere, I'm sure. Being the messy crafter that I am, I'm just going to fold this in from here. And then you get the nice sort of corners. They're all beautifully covered. If you don't have a stack of glue like I do, spend ages peeling all the glue off my hands after I do some of these projects. Now, if you find, I don't know if you can see that, but there might be just like a little tip there. If you haven't quite taken off enough when you miter the corner, you can just go along and snip that extra bit off there, if it bothers you. And easy as that. Okay, we'll just do this last side bit here. and get this bit glued down. Now this end here is probably a little bit bulkier than what I wanted it to be because I didn't miter it quite as much as I wanted, but it's still down nice and flat. But I will take off the little tip of this one that's sticking out. Perfect. Okay, so sometimes you can find with some glues that your paper will actually, you know, buckle up a little bit because the glue's so wet, or if you've used too much. So if that is the case, just put it under a heavy book for 24 hours or 12 hours or 2 hours or whatever until it sort of dries and it's nice and flat. That's pretty good for me. So we'll move on to the next step. So then all you want to do is just fold it over. Hopefully you've got a little bit there that's sticking out. So hopefully you've cut your manila folder in that fairly straight. And then all you want to do is just crease that down. And because you're using fairly thin material in the manila folder, it's going to crease down really easily. Now, you can see that's just made a perfect little cover. And you can see all the different variants in it there. So this was one that I had put the Mod Podge on. So it's more the leather look. Now, if you wanted to, if you weren't really happy with the colour that it's dried as, even at this point, you could hit it with some more if you wanted to. What I like to do, and I'll just get one of my daubers. Let's see. Okay, so with these, what you could do is just hit. You can go around and hit other sort of bits, but what I like to do is then just go around the edges and sort of darken the book up like you would sort of expect a leather look book to, or a leather book, sorry, to have, you know, all of that around the edges. So as you can see it sort of coming to life, and this is really quite, you know, pliable. And you can see already it looks better having that around the edges. Just quickly do the inside because we are going to cover that. Now, I would recommend that before you start playing with it too much, I know I've just gone straight in, but let it dry, let your cover dry. Otherwise, you could get some cracking and you could, you know, get some like issues with it. So let your glue sort of dry well before you start sort of mucking around too much, even though I am not waiting. So let's hit all of that a little bit, give a little bit into the edges on the inside, because you still will see part of these even when we cover it up. Pay attention to the corners. Okay, so that's starting to come together there, and the spine. So I give it a bit of a going over there, And then, as I said, you know, this is really quite, I mean, it's not 100% dry from that glue, but because we've used the manila folder, which is not thick, and we've got this, you know, paper that's been treated with the Mod Podge and everything, it's really quite flexible. So it's a nice lightweight sort of cover. Now, the other thing that you can do if you want to add to it even more is you can sort of get a bit of a vinaigrette sort of look to it, and you can sort of go around and hit those edges a little bit more and sort of bring out some more aging to it, which I think looks really good. Okay, so that's it for that one. You can also choose to get the fallen leaves and darken up the edges with that. So I might actually do that and see how much darker, because they are very different. So let's see the difference that we get using, yeah. So you can see there, that's, you know, quite a bit darker, and I think I actually prefer that on this cover. So just decide which colors you're going to sort of use. And you can give your new leather like feel book an even darker sort of look, which I definitely think I prefer. But I will vary mine as I make them. Use, you know, vintage photo. I'm going to do some nocturne, so sort of more black sort of look, which I think looks really fantastic. Now from here, what you would do is, if you want to have a ribbon closure or any sort of closure with you know, a tie closure, then all you need to do is just, you know, make sure you add that in now before you cover the inside of the cover. And the other thing as well, and I'll show you all of that when I do my video on actually putting this journal together, if you're going to put a book plate or anything on the front here, then now is the time to actually do it before you cover the inside of your cover with whatever you might be doing. So that's that one, and as you can see, it really looks quite beautiful, and it's as simple as that. Now if we're using the suede that we've made, exactly the same process as what we did before. Find whatever you want to use, and you know, for your, you know, whether you're using cardboard or whether you're using manila folder. We might actually, for this one, I might just glue, not that you have to, but I'll glue that down. I think it's up on this side as well, just a little bit of glue, because this is actually really quite nice and thick, and I like the shape of this. It's going to turn out quite squarish, so we might use that, except this is not big enough. Golly, yeah, it's not quite big enough for that, and I don't think this piece is either. No, it's not. So I might just see what I can find and be right back. Okay, so we're back. So what I'm going to do is I've decided this is this suede feel, and I've decided that I am going to use the bottom of that paper bag. So I've just cut it just a little bit so that it fits, and it's more of a square sort of shape, which I think will be really good. And I am just going to stick it to here. This is going to be a bit big now at the top, obviously, but we'll just use a piece of it. So once again, I'm just going to use my glue stick. Actually, let's move that out of the road. Use my glue stick, and it gives most glue sticks will give, you know, a good enough contact anyway to stick down, because you're sticking paper to paper, so it should be, you know, pretty good. Now all I do is with these, if you get any lumpy bits, I tend to just smooth them out, because you don't sort of want the lumpy bits on your paper. Okay, again with heaps of glue on my fingers, I'll just wipe them. Okay, and then I think what I'm going to do is stick it down that way, so just so that, whoops, I stuck the side, I didn't mean to, but that doesn't matter. So I'm just going to stick it down the bottom here. So that it's got fairly good contact. It doesn't really, whether it's because it's like really wrinkly, it's sort of, you kind of got to train it down a little bit. And then I'm just going to cut off this top bit, just leaving enough to curl over, turn it around. That will dry over time, and then once again just going to miter these corners. Hasn't stuck very well there, so I'll add some more glue in a moment. Okay, and then the same process that we went through before with the other one. Just add some glue. Stick that down. I like working with all this sort of stuff because it's just, you know, using up, it's like real junk journaling, you know, using up things that you have, like recyclable materials and that you already have around your home. So it's not often costing you anything or very little. You know, obviously your glues and that sort of thing, but most of us have a lot of that if we're doing journals anyway. So it's nice to be able to use up some of these other, you know, bits and pieces of paper bags and that sort of thing that we've got, so that we're, you know, helping the environment. So just add some glue to this side, and let's just fold that in. I always start at the center because I find then I can sort of work out any odd bits that might be left over at the corners. And my mitering leaves a little bit to be desired on this project, so we will fix them once it's all sort of dry. Okay, and a bit of glue to this side here. So yeah, if anyone knows how I can get my hand on some Fabri-Tac, which I know is hugely popular over in the US, because I'd really like to try it. Everybody seems to use it there. So if you know how I can get my hands on it where it's not going to cost me $70 a bottle, and I think the thing is I can't even remember now whether it was 70 US or 70 Australian. If it's US, then I'm looking at probably about $90 for one bottle of glue. And I cannot justify that at all. Okay, so once again, just go around, have a look at your corners. For me, I've been a little bit messy, but it's just a matter of snipping that off. Okay, so that's all done. So obviously you want to, you know, leave it to dry. As I said, maybe put it under a book if you are concerned that it's, you know, going to warp at all, but it should be pretty good. So again, this is the point where if you're going to do a closure with some ribbon or something like that, or just grab some. Well, that took forever to grab just a little bit of ribbon, but anyway, it's not the colour that I would use, but just to give you an idea. So if you were to and wanting to use ribbon, then just run a little bit of glue right along there and place your ribbon down into it. Obviously cut off enough that you're going to need for your ties, or you can use some double-sided tape, which is always really good. And then you've got your ribbon already on there. If you are wanting to use the twine, then same thing. You probably could just use a couple of little bits of tape over that in a few sections to hold it down, or you could glue it. So make sure you put that on at this stage, and as I said earlier, I will show you that when I actually put the whole journal, the rest of the journal together. And also, if you want a anything on the front, so any metal sort of findings, so you might want a book plate or something, so go ahead and make your holes through this now and attach it with your brads before you go any further and go putting on your covers on the inside here. So just make sure that you don't forget those steps. So I'm going to leave this one to dry, obviously, like the other one, but yeah, it looks pretty good. For some reason it does look a little bit wonky on this edge, but I like it. So whether I didn't fold over as much or whether I just cut it a little bit crooked, you know, I think it looks good just being, it actually looks like it bows in a little bit then comes out again. So that's really cool. Okay, so again, I'm going to grunge it up a little bit more, just using some vintage photo. And this cover, this is the one that's the suede sort of feel, and again, it's really soft and pliable, you know. Having these folds in here is a little bit different, which wasn't something that I thought about actually, but it doesn't matter because it's still really, you know, bendable. So if you want something that doesn't have as rigid a cover as some of your other journals might have, then this is a really good alternative. Now you can use this on your rigid covers as well. But what I mean is using, you know, another bit of the paper bag or some manila folder or something as the other part of your cover means that you've got, you know, this more flexible sort of cover, which I really like. I plan on using some of my other sheets on harder sort of covers as well. But these are just good for some little different sort of journals. And alright, so scrunching that up a little bit. Okay, and then again you can go in and, you know, sort of deepen those corners a little bit, add a little bit more to it. Now, as I said, you don't want to hit this with Mod Podge, because if you do, then you're going to have a leather look rather than the suede look and feel that this one has. So let's try and put the two of them together, and you can still sort of see that one has a shinier sort of look. This one has a more matte sort of look to it. So that's the two differences there. And I will, in my next video, or a video coming up very soon, show you how I've actually finished putting all of those together. So a couple of different ways to do it. I hope you've enjoyed watching that. Go ahead, make some of them, and I'll see you in my next one. Thanks, bye.